You're listening to Tech It Out on the Radio America Network. Thanks for joining us. Here's a sobering fact. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says that texting while driving can be 6 times more dangerous than drunk driving. And this is particularly more concerning for parents, as virtually all teens have a smartphone, at about 95%, according to Pew Research Center, compared to 60% of teens who say they consume alcohol. While in this case, it sounds like technology is the problem, but perhaps it can also be the solution with a product like Safe Drive Pod. Joining us on the line to explain what Safe Drive Pod is all about is the owner of the company, Paul Hendrix. He's on the line all the way from the Netherlands. Thanks for your time, Paul.
Hello, Mark.
All right. So let's start right from the top. What is Safe Drive Pod?
We invented a solution, and what we say is a closed solution for smartphone distraction in traffic. And our solution works for bicycles, for bikes, for cars, for trucks and buses. It is a closed solution, so what we do is we close the screen while driving or while biking. So everything what is not allowed by the law, we fix, and everything what is allowed, let's say hands-free calling, that is allowed also with our solution.
And how do you go about that? I believe the key word in your name, Safe Drive Pod, is the pod element. Maybe you can talk to us about that.
Yeah, because to solve the problem, there are a couple of phones in the market, and you have, of course, the iOS versions, but also we have the Android versions. And the problem, of course, is the iOS versions to close the phone directly, and that's why you need an extra device. But there are also more advantages to use a pod, and that is at first that we know that you are in your car or on your bike, and not in a taxi or in a bus, because then you are totally free to use your smartphone. So it detects that you are in your car. And the second thing is that because of the vibration of the pod, we see if people are moving. So we don't use any GPS, and that's because of the privacy. And we see all kind of apps also in the market. But at first, they don't close an iPhone. And secondly, they always use GPS. And we only see in the vibration of the car if somebody is moving. And when you are moving, we close the screen.
All right, so I was going to ask you, why not just use an app to detect if the vehicle is moving, because there are sensors inside of a smartphone that allow you to do just that. But you've explained the 3, I guess, reasons why a small pod, which is only the size of like a quarter, if I'm not mistaken, is required to go on the windshield. So one is that iPhone is a closed operating system, so they don't allow you on the operating system level to turn off the screen with an app. Secondly, is that the phone doesn't know if you're in the back of an Uber or a Lyft or a passenger, so it may turn your screen off when you are allowed to use it. And thirdly is that for privacy reasons, you said you're not using GPS tracking. So that explains why you need a little piece of hardware, which is this pod that sticks to your windshield, and that communicates with the phone, though, correct? It still works with a Safe Drive Pod app.
Yeah, that is connected. Yeah, exactly. We have a Safe Drive Pod app. You need the pod, and we have the dashboard. The third part is also very, very important because you need a certain regulation or control. But when the pod is in the car, otherwise, on an app, you always have a button that you could say, I'm not in my car, or I'm a co-driver, or whatever. And what we see is that people always will misuse it. And that is not because the problem of the people, but we are all addicted to the smartphone. And that's what we need to admit, that we are addicted. So the solution also needs to be a solution that solves an addiction. Because otherwise, we see a lot of campaigns about distracted driving around the world that we talk, don't do it, etc., but everyone is doing it, and we can't blame the people, but we need to help them that they don't grab to their phone while driving, because it is not allowed, but it is also not safe.
All right, so the idea behind Safe Drive Pod is a small quarter-size sticky pod that attaches to your windshield. It detects movement, and then it tells your phone screen to turn off, so you can't access it. What, though, happens in case of an emergency and a loved one calls you while driving? Are you able to take the call, or are you fully blocked?
Now, you have a hands-free set, I hope. That is in every new car at this moment.
Right.
Yeah, so that is no problem. We also have the possibility for an SOS button on the screen. So with the SOS button, you can always call 911 or whatever. But even that red button that is on the screen, we see that people misuse it. So it is in default off, but it is a possibility to put it on. And for some customers, we do it on, and the most customers choose for no SOS button because everyone misuse it. And that's also the evidence that people really are addicted, and we want to help them also with the gamification in the app and in the dashboard to get better behavior.
I'll ask you about the gamification element in a moment, but I want to remind our listeners we're chatting with Paul Hendrix. He is the owner of Safe Drive Pod. It's also the name of the product that helps drivers drive safely by removing distractions, i.e. your smartphone. So talk to us about this incentive to not touch your phone. Maybe we call it in the industry, as you said, gamification, the ability to level up or to earn something as a reward for performing a task, or in this case, not performing a task. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. Now, what we do is you get a score for your behavior, and a 10 is very good, and a 0 is not so well. Everyone starts with a 10, but if you play too much with your system, and that is pushing the home button, for example, while driving, so that is a negative score. Switching off Bluetooth, it is the same, or remove the app. But what we want is that people see their own behavior, and that's in the personal score. But also you see, for example, when it is for fleets, you see you as a team, but also for families.
When we return, we'll continue chatting about Safe HomePod, a way to curb distracted driving. We'll be right back.
Follow Marc